Good? Everybody excited? You'll be even more excited after this one, I promise you. So, my name is Marc Klefter. I'm a solutions architect. With me I've got Stefan.
Hi, Mark.
You are a...
Software engineer.
an awesome software engineer. Me, Stefan, and our esteemed colleague Marc Klefter have been working on Axoniq Insights for a number of months now. And this is our new product offering that enables you to do event store analytics. What does that mean? So, let's say you have an event store. Your application is, of course, storing events in your event store. How do you query your system and the events that you have stored? Well, up until now, you've had to create projections, which is, of course, fine if you have a front end where you need to present information. But what if you're in a data analyst role, or in a data team, where you need to do ad hoc queries, for example, is quite important? Well, maybe up until now you had to ask the application team to create a projection for you for precisely some type of query that you need answered, or you would have to spend some engineering resources from your data team on this. That is now no longer necessary. You'll be able to create projections, issue ad hoc queries, using the features within Axoniq Insights. Not only that, you'll be able to integrate from other tools, not only sort of the mechanism that we provide, but from other tools that data roles typically use to query your events. So finally, you have a database, an event-native database, that you can actually query the totality of your events. We thought about different ways of doing this. What we came up with is this. We'll take Axon Server and we'll store the events in a slightly different format. Are people familiar with Parquet in this audience? Some of you? This enables you to store, in our case, events in a more optimized fashion for efficient data storage and retrieval, specifically for analytics purposes. So we'll take your events that you already have stored and we'll restore them, if you will, in a more optimized fashion using Parquet. And on top of that, we'll use the most commonly used query language known to man, which is SQL. And together you get the best of both to query your events. When you do that and build a little nice UI on top of that, you get something like this. So within Axon Server, we have now slimmed down the UI somewhat for those of you who are familiar with the Axon Server dashboard. Specifically, under the event store rubric, we now have something called Analytics, which gives you this kind of view. So you'll have the option to craft and execute custom queries against one or several Axon contexts, depending on how many you have. And you'll be able to see the results in a tabular format. Simple, but straight to the point. And what kind of SQL dialect is this? This is actually DuckDB. So if you know DuckDB, or SQL in general, but the DuckDB dialect especially, that full range of capabilities within that dialect are available to you. By the way, I don't know if that's really visible, but it says 11 milliseconds. So I want to point out that querying your events using this specific combination of Parquet and SQL is super fast, which is the whole point. For example, if you're a data analyst and you want your answers retrieved quickly. So how does this work? There's this term called data lake. Basically, you can then dump raw data inside of there and make sense of it. We name it event lake for obvious reasons. But basically, again, we transform events into a column-oriented format where only the things you're interested in will be retrieved. And again, we embed DuckDB within Axon Server to let it read the Parquet files containing your optimized events to do efficient querying. And to show this visually, you'll have your cluster as it's running. So here I'm showing one primary node with 2 Axon contexts. And the whole point of doing analytics is not to impact your main cluster that is interfacing with your applications. So what we have done is to introduce a new type of node that we call the analytics node. And it will follow the same type of event replication scheme that is happening within this primary cluster. But we'll replicate events to this analytics node and then inject those events into the format that we have talked about. So the contexts you'll have in your cluster will be mirrored in your analytics node. We have introduced something we call, quote-unquote, a semantic layer. This is so we can more properly understand what's in your events. So the semantic layer comprises, of course, the central repository of your events, managing the event schema and maybe some ontology on top of that, and of course, via DuckDB, the ability to query your events. Then we have an embedded insights agent, which is interesting, but I'm going to leave that for now for Stefan to delve into. And we also have an embedded MCP server that can be, of course, useful if you're using custom agents and you want to query your events from the outside. So this probably is a good time to move over to Stefan's part of this.
Thanks, Mark. I must admit I was never this excited about new release. So all the new knowledge that this is going to unlock, just imagine all of the questions that you can ask from just raw events. Like, it's not a regular CRUD tables that you can ask one question and probably get it in one format. It's limited data. Here you have unlimited capabilities. But Mark, I think I noticed that this SQL, I don't think that you wrote that. I think that you
You're
vibed
my SQL skills?
yes, actually it's 2025, so everything is vibed coded. In this case, you'd vibe analyze it, right? So can we try to vibe analyze a little bit?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is the interface that Mark showed, and let's just start by something really simple. Let's do a select all. And this is the first thing that is new. Now we have auto compatibility, and it has syntax highlighting. So let's do select all from events. Let's limit because there is a lot. So it's pretty fast. You can see 8 milliseconds, and we can see data here. But yeah, let's try to do what Mark did. And there is a button here that says expand AI. So let me show you what we have here. This is a chat interface that you're already probably useful in a lot of different products, but what makes it special, it has the full control over your UI. It can execute queries and answer the questions in your behalf. There are 2 modes here, full access and privacy. So we take privacy pretty seriously. We know that many companies don't want some data to be exposed to LLM provider, and in privacy mode, LLM cannot see your data at all. So it can only see your schema, it can see some semantics that you allowed it, and it can only execute queries without analyzing what is in the results. Or you can go to the full mode, full access, which can allow you to give you better answers. The agent has preview in the data, and based on that can make additional steps. So for example, instead of making one really complicated query, it can execute multiple queries one by one and to summarize the whole answer and give it to you in the chat. Let's try first the privacy. So let's try to replicate. So which location has most rented?
By the way, if
bikes?
it's not obvious already, we're using the bike rental example that we're so fond of.
Exactly. We really love bike rental, and we are in Amsterdam, so don't blame us. Yeah, you can just see how these events look. They're pretty raw. So bike rented out, check it out, and you can see how the data look. So let me see what's happening. Okay, so AI is thinking, and you can see what it's doing. It has multiple tools at its disposal, and the first tool that it uses is analyzing the schema analysis. So it's gonna go through your semantics layer, and it's gonna figure out which fields you have in your events, and it's gonna try to do some ontology extraction to understand which fields and which events it needs to create a projection from in order to answer your question. So you can see it already answered. It created a query here, and let's see what it did. So it counted all of the bikes that were checked out and grouped by location and sorted. So the Copenhagen is number 1. Great. So yeah, let's minimize this query, not to get in the way. Let's try something else. Let's which days are most popular for bike rentals, and show me report. Let's see what it can answer. But by the way, you get surprised how good answer it comes up, and which kind of information it can pull, and how resilient it is. For example, now it got to an error. You can see now it's debugging, and it's trying to fix the query, and it's gonna try that until it gets the data. So let's see what is happening. It can even do some simple forecasting based on the previous data, but I think in the future we will introduce more tools as something like AutoML to help the data scientists and BI people. So let's see. Okay, there is something it answered. Okay, let's maybe go to the full mode instead, and let's also ask something more hard. So do an analysis of bike cancellations. Which cities have most cancellations? Show me the report. Let's see. So in the full access now, AI can see the results. And it will not be confused when it generates a query and there is nothing there. It will know that there is nothing there, and it will going to try to execute more queries. It can take longer, but it can give you better summary of everything. So I was pretty vague, so I didn't tell him what the cancellation is. So I let him just figure it out.
Yes, this is important. We're not providing any additional information beyond what's in the events, basically. So we're counting on the agent to give you just what you asked for, if it's good enough.
Okay, its cancellation rate is 10%. Out of total 869, there's only 88 cancellations, but only in the Brussels. So we can go wild from here. We can ask, find us a renter who is doing these cancellations, and then we can ask, tell me the customer journey of this renter. We want to figure out if he's trying to do some fraud, maybe. So let's see what AI is currently doing. Yeah, it's so it answered the first question, and now it's trying to get even more information for the final answer. So we can see here the new summary, and yeah, in the full mode, agent has more control of what it's doing compared to you. But we are going to tighten this belt around the agent. By the way, if you see this debugging, you can always just click on it and it will show you the error. It will copy the error that is happening, so if you're interested to debug why something is not working in your query. So let's see. Bike ID. Okay, this is pretty good analysis here. Total, let's see. Yeah, it basically now gives you the summary even of each bike, how many times it was cancelled, by cancellation rate, how many times it was totally reserved. And it will give us a little bit better answer here. So let's see what did it set, okay, renters. It was only 14 out of 85 customers that cancelled at least once. So I'm happy with this response.
So what's the SQL in this case, if we expand it?
Yeah, let's see. We want to have SQL here always visible because we need to verify the data that is correct, and that this is something that we just didn't want to have it hidden because AIs can hallucinate and can come up with random answers. So always check the SQL if you can, if you understand it, or just copy it to another AI to explain you if the SQL is correct.
But just gonna say, as a non-technical person, this is pretty remarkable.
Yeah. And you can see
I have limited SQL skills, so this would have taken me some time to come up with. So even I am an engineer, but my SQL skills leave somewhat to be improved. So maybe I'll use this as well, because it's just simpler to ask the query wait a little bit. But I get what I want. I get the history, I get statistics, I get most of the things, maybe things I don't even know about, things that it detects for me. So yeah, I would probably start with that one. Yeah, if I don't have any need to actually dive into crafting SQL queries myself.
exactly, but you can see it can extract the data using the JSON or even XML from your events. So it knows how to work with queries, and it's really fast. So we have, I don't know, 100,000 events, and it took 10 milliseconds to execute this. And this is because the data is stored in the columnar Parquet format, which means that only the fields that are required for projection are going to be pulled to the memory and nothing else. So this is big comparison to if you do the regular projection with Axon framework, you get all the events, even the fields that you don't need, and there is a network buffer that you need to transfer to. It takes a lot of time, so for quick answers, you might just need to have projection here, and for some other cases, you still want to have queries in Axon framework.
Also to mention, we are replicating events from your primary cluster. Almost.
Yes, almost.
Because we are lagging a little bit behind. But for those of you who know Axon Server terminology, this is sort of like a passive backup node, but it gets the most recent events very quickly. Yeah. But it takes a little time to ingest them and store them properly. So, but it's almost up to date. Yeah.
So
which is, by the way, faster than a typical data lake where you measure delays in hours sometimes. So, yeah. Okay, so that was how you can quickly get up and running with ad hoc queries on your event store. So what you just saw was the Insights agent. Turns out that generating SQL statements from text is a whole science in itself, but I think we've done a pretty good job to make that happening.
Let's say it's optimized for temporal events, temporal data in particular, and event sourcing. So we taught it how to do this, so that you don't need to do this.
Yeah. And I hope that is something that, as you try this out, you get the insights you're hoping for, and we'll continue to improve this, of course. Now, this is if you want to jump right in and start using this today, tomorrow. But as our new CEO explained in her keynote, we're building something for the outside world, for other agents. So this can also be thought of as an agentic service that we provide. So we also have an MCP server, which allows you to do pretty much the same thing you just saw. What context do I have? And send in a natural language query. And if you want to build your own agents within your own environment or application, you can start doing so. This is something, again, we'll expand with the tools that you will need to build powerful agents, and also agent to agent is something we're exploring to be able to communicate with the Insights agent we do have. So expect a lot more in this regard, because while these are sort of enablers for custom agents, there are a number of other tools that data teams typically use. Power BI, Tableau. You want to be able to execute queries against your events from those tools as well. So beyond sort of AI-related connectors via MCP A2A, expect connectors that are JDBC-based and others that hook into those tools that data teams already use. So we want to make sure that this semantic layer we're building out and the events we store in this analytics node become queryable from anywhere, from anybody.
Yeah, security, as we mentioned, we really want to focus a lot on this. We will enable row-based security, so that even in the privacy mode, that you will be able to allow agent to see some fields or some events that you want it to see. Like you can just drag and drop the columns and say, can you do analysis of these events, or can you help me out to figure out what happened after this? So we really plan to do more, and also to allow you to configure your own LLM provider, which you trust in. And definitely we plan to do a lot of more thinking in how we can improve security. Of course, based on your feedback. So if you want, you can reach out to us in the hallway, and just if you have any ideas, just share.
But to be sure, sharing data with the model, even it's on-prem, maybe some user information is in there that conflicts with, I don't know, GDPR matters. This is something we fully intend to get right, so you don't have to worry about the intricacies of data sharing with models. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the demo that he showed was easy because events were pretty easy to figure out what they're doing. It's by granted out, by cancelled. So AI can figure out how to use these events to answer your questions. But it's not always easy like that. And here's the example. So if I wrote in some other context, show me all the failed payments for the VIP customers last month. AI does not know which events it can pull. There are many events. It can be payment fail, obviously, payment declined or payment timeout. But what about the chargeback? What about refund requested? That's also payment paid. Somebody can request a refund after 1 minute. So should it do that or not? That's something that you need to decide and to provide this knowledge to the agent. Also, what is the VIP customer? Maybe it's something that clearly has the status premium or VIP, or maybe it's every customer that is longer than 10 years in your database, that is active, or it purchased more than 1 million in goods. So you need to tell that to the agent. So how we do that? We enable this nice small field. It's right here, which you can expand. And what you can do here, you can write basically your business knowledge. Whatever you want, you can put in the documentation there. Anything that or something that is repeating frequently that AI is struggling, you can give instructions here. So how it works if you don't provide that? We do the schema analysis. We try to do ontology extraction. That means AI will try to figure out which events to connect to the meaning of the business question that you asked, and only after that it goes through the semantic layer and natural language to SQL, and then you get the results. If you provide ontology, it's a little bit easier. It first checks in the ontology lookup. If you have a lot of ontology, it will do cosine similarity to only pull the data that is required for your question, and then it's gonna put that to the prompt as well, and it's gonna continue with SQL generation.
Yeah, so that was a quick look into Axoniq Insights. So to summarize, this is a specialized version of Axon Server. We call it the analytics node, for lack of a better term. It comprises not only a specialized event storage, but also the semantic layer and an agent and an embedded MCP server. Regarding the semantic layer, there are things you can extract from your events. The ontology helps with the SQL query generation, but there are things in the events that describe entities. There are things in the events that describe relationships. You can build knowledge graphs out of this. So we are looking into not only ways, but means to achieve this, and if it's something we should build ourselves, or maybe in conjunction with parties that already are doing knowledge extraction. So I'd love to have that discussion if that's of interest. Connectors, we talked about other tools like business intelligence, MCP server, and the A2A protocol. One thing that we are going to add very shortly is observability features. You can actually see what's going on under the hood. We have something in that vein, but in a limited capacity. But observability is super important, especially if you hook up your LLMs, want to see token usage, etc. and of course the security model when it comes to sharing data with it or not.
One more thing is missing.
Yeah.
So we also the Mitchell's dev agent, and we're now here talking about ontology, how it's hard, you need to document it, and when you really think about the dev agent, what he represented, it was opposite direction. So it was ontology to event schema. So we see this natural connection to the complete platform, that if you start with the dev platform, you will be able to export the whole ontology and knowledge into the insight agents, and you will just have much better responses on your questions.
So this is actually available today in early access previews. If you go to the new platform and click on Analyze, you'll be able to download a trial package to get started. It's a simple Docker Compose file. You can just fire it up and start trying this out with a trial license. And of course, we'll have a workshop here shortly where you can go through a number of interesting exercises to see this all in action. So if you want to get hands-on quickly, we're here and ready for it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Questions?
I have a question. How will this be priced? Will there be some API token like in Cloud Code, or is it just part of a license and we don't have to care about the pricing at all?
So the analytics node is just another node. So depending on the license for your Axon Server deployment, this is something you can provision. When it comes to the model itself, it's up to you. Okay. This is an on-prem installation, of course, and many companies want to have an on-prem model as well, but that's something you can configure, or if you want to use a hosted model, that's when these observability features become important. So it's up to you what model you want to use, but then you also have to start thinking about the security features, which will allow you to choose. But yeah, we'll have some guidance for you in terms of, depending on the model, if it's on-prem or hosted, what should you allow to share or not. Yeah, but in terms of just using it, it's Axon Server license scheme that you follow. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's not going through our servers, so that you can provide your API from your LLM provider, and they are billing you based on the usage. That's it.
Yep.
I have another question. Is it working with different payload types? So, or is it limited to having JSON as payload, as event payload, or how does it work? How does it analyze the payloads?
At the moment, it's just the JSON, but we are planning to also introduce XML as well. Regarding the binary, we cannot help there. It's not analyzable.
Unless you provide some additional assistance in doing that conversion. But JSON or XML is our primary formats that we're targeting. Yeah.
How well does this analyzer scale with trillions or petabytes or gigabytes? I mean, data lakes are not usually megabytes, they're in the petabytes.
So we have partitioning by date, but aggregate IDs, so it's only pulling the data that it needs. So if you really want to execute a query that involves 1 trillion of events, that's probably something that you should do manually. But the agent is trained to know how to use these partitioning and indexes in order to minimize the execution time. So if currently the limitation is 30 seconds, if it cannot respond in that time, it will just give up. But so far we tested with I don't know 10 million, 20 million events, and it was around 2 seconds time to get the response back.
Anyone else?
Yes, sir.
The ontology layer, is that just a unstructured file, or how is that? Can you tell a bit more about ontology?
Currently, it's an unstructured file. It's a text file that you can either mark up or of a regular any text file that you can upload. But we are exploring how to improve this in future, that you can better document and model your semantic layer directly in the server.
I should also mention that we're calling this an event lake because that's what it is. But we also know that organizations, the large ones, have their own data lakes existing. So it becomes a matter of, is this an event lake that should really be part of the bigger data lake that already exists, or should they query for information from us or from Axon Server to their data lakes? All combinations are possible, but I should stress that we consider this the source of truth, of course, and we're the source of truth for events for your data lake. Whether you're happy with just using the event lake or this is part of something bigger, that's a scenario that is quite interesting to explore as well.
Yeah, it's not a data warehouse. It's still unstructured data in a raw format, and you can use other tools to transform it and to put it to the final data warehouse format. Okay, if there is no questions, thank you.
Yeah, so, yeah, go ahead, Clive.